Everyone got good audio? Great. As a mom, I know firsthand how magical it is to watch your children learn and grow. That magical transformation depends on a lot of things, but one of the foundational building blocks is access to healthy and nutritious food. Not having enough food or enough healthy food has lifelong impacts on a child. Research shows that kids who are food insecure are more likely to repeat a grade, experience developmental impairments, have social and behavioral problems. It increases their risk of asthma, anemia, anxiety, and aggression. It turns out the solution to kids not having enough food isn't that hard. It's making sure kids have enough food. It's making sure that children have reliable access to healthy food. It's guaranteeing that our littlest learners no longer have to spend their time worrying about where their next meal will come from. We know from years of data that school meals are an effective way to address food insecurity. Research has shown that programs like these improve health, obesity rates, fruit and vegetable consumption, attendance, and even educational outcomes. Kentucky has been a leader in school meals, and I'm excited to stand with the amazing partners behind me today to announce proposed legislation to build on our great tradition of prioritizing solutions for childhood hunger and kids who don't have enough food. Our bill proposes to use state funds to reimburse schools that provide meals through the federal Community Eligibility Provision program. This federal program allows schools with a high percentage of low-income students to provide free meals to all enrolled students. This broad access is important as it ensures that kids at a high risk of hunger aren't missing out on food they need solely because of bureaucratic red tape and logistical challenges. But federal guidelines don't always cover all of the costs of these meals, meaning that many Kentucky schools are missing out. There's room for us to do better. That's why our bill proposes to supplement this funding with state dollars to make it easier for our schools to meet the needs of our most vulnerable kids. I'm so grateful, especially this time of year, to those who work in our schools and for the many things they do to support their families. It is the most vitally important work that we do as a society. As the school year begins, I urge my colleagues in the General Assembly to work with us to figure out how we can better support our schools and our children in need. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And I want to start by thanking for those of you who have joined us today. Special thank you to Superintendent Kopp and to Principal House for hosting us at your awesome facility here at Peace Mill Elementary School. For allowing us to be here to talk about the future of the school meals program in Kentucky. A little bit of history. Roughly 77 years ago, the first comprehensive federal school lunch program was passed during President Truman's administration. President Truman said upon passage of that law that in the long view, no nation is any healthier than its children, more prosperous than its farmers, and in the National School Lunch Act, the Congress has contributed immensely to both the welfare of our farmers and the health of our children. That quote still rings true today for our Commonwealth. We have a moral obligation to ensure as many children as possible enter our classrooms ready to learn. According to Feeding America, nearly 580,000 Kentuckians face hunger, and more than 154,000 of them are children. That's 1 in 7 of Kentucky's children. On average, students who eat school breakfast have been shown to achieve a 17.5% higher score on standardized math tests and attend, on average, 1.5 more school days per year. And this is according to the Kentucky School Nutrition Association. Kentucky has a long history of being a leader in this space, and we can do so again. Kentucky was among the first 10 states to benefit from the 2010 law that enacted the Community Eligibility Program, known as CEP. Nationwide, more than 40,000 schools participate in the CEP program during the 22-23 school year, benefiting 20 million students. 80% of eligible schools took place, but not all. Although CEP was put into place well before the pandemic, programs enacted as a result of COVID gave us real-world examples of what CEP is designed to accomplish. However, the formal end of the COVID emergency means many schools are returning to pre-pandemic requirements for breakfast and lunch, meaning fewer students are eating school meals. Early this summer, a Food Research and Action Center report showed that in a review of 91 large school districts across 40 states, 100,000 fewer students were participating in October of 22 than in April of 22, when the pandemic waiver for breakfast, food, and lunch was still in place. 3 counties in Kentucky were participated in that review: Boone, Fayette, and Jefferson. In November of 2022, the USDA announced a cooperative agreement with Kentucky to use $3.2 million to increase the purchase of nutritious, locally sourced food for school meals. This is by far the biggest grant the state has ever received for its Farm to School program. Bottom line is that when more students are eating nutritious, locally sourced, farm fresh school meals, they are more productive and ready to learn. By passing this legislation, we will have both a more attentive student, but we will also be putting more money into our local agricultural community. This is a win for our schools, this is a win for our students, and this is a win for our farming community. Superintendent Kopp.
It's a great day in the Commonwealth. It's a great day in Franklin County Schools, One Team FCS. I'm so proud to be here, and I want to thank Senator Chambers Armstrong, Representative Aull, for allowing us to be part of this announcement. As a school district, we've made a promise to our community, to our students, and that promise is every student succeeds. And what that means is we will do everything we can to ensure that everyone, our hashtag for the year, hashtag every, and then the number one, every single one of our kids is provided with the nutrition that they need, the safety that that we are required to provide for them, and the most amazing education we can provide. Let me explain from our perspective why this is so important. We're a CEP district. We've been a CEP district for the last several years. District-wide, all of our students this year are eligible for free breakfast and lunches. And in a district where there is quite a bit of diversity, quite a bit of poverty, we know that there are certain students that the only hot meal that they're going to get is one that we provide them here in schools. Having a full belly is the most important way to ensure that you're going to help that child learn and succeed. There's a great song that Bob Marley sings, I think, and it's a hungry man is an angry man, right? Big, huge proponent of the fact that we have to do everything we can to provide an environment for our children that allows them to not have to focus on, when's my next meal going to come? That whole process, that whole promise, I should say, of everyone truly means that we have to focus on every single child. So we're so excited about providing free breakfast and free lunch, and we really hope that the legislature supports this piece of legislation, and that all of the districts that are eligible for CEP will take part. We have seen nothing but benefits from this program. Think about it from this perspective. It's not just a benefit for every single child when they come in that they have a free breakfast and a free lunch in our school system. That in and of itself is huge. But think about the benefit to the community when a parent doesn't have to worry about how am I going to pay for my child's breakfast or lunch, or am I going to have to go to the store and buy things for the week and pack lunches, all of those things. When you can remove that burden from our students and from our communities, we're all going to have a greater chance to succeed. At this time, I'd like to introduce Principal Cassie Aull of Peaks Mill Elementary.
I'm so glad to be here and excited to be a part of this movement. When they asked me to speak, my goal was to make sure that I put faces with the students who benefit from this program. And I can definitely do that. Without naming names, I know for sure that when we think about coming back to school, some of those students, their biggest thing was getting in the breakfast line right after they get off the school bus. So this is something that's very important to our school community here. I can think specifically of a family that they have 3 or 4 students who have come through our building. We actually have one of theirs as a mentor and able to help us, in other ways. But the big thing is that they don't have to worry about where my next meal is coming from. We see, day in and day out students coming in, especially on Monday mornings. When you come from a food unstable home, that is a hardship. You come in, you're not ready to worry about, borrowing from your neighbor and, reducing and subtracting decimals. Your focus is on where can I get my next meal? And that's something that I'm very proud when I talk to families that I can say that hardship is not a burden you have to bear. When they come in, they say, well, I don't have money to put in their account. They don't have to worry about that. It's something I'm excited about for Franklin County, that we can say it's not something that you have to worry. You come in, every student has the opportunity to go through our breakfast line and our lunch line. When you think about coming back to school, your first thought may not be breakfast, but for some of our families, that really is what they're thinking about. We know that we have an increase of students who eat on Monday mornings for breakfast because they're coming from a food unstable home. We also know that there is on Fridays students who eat more. We also participate in our local communities helping us with the backpack snacks program so that students are able to take care of their feeding over the weekend. So I know that for our community here at Peaks Mill, there are a lot of students who really benefit for this, and I hope it's something that we can continue. It's not something easy for a parent to ask for help, and knowing that they don't have to do that, it's something that we can put those resources in another direction for our families, really is something that's helpful. And our kids are here to learn. They're not here to worry about where their next meal is coming from. So I appreciate that we're a part of this. I hope something we continue for a long time. And I'm happy to introduce Ms. Kate Goodin with Feeding Kentucky to give a few more details.
Thank you, Principal. Good morning, and thank you for being here today as we come together to show our support for school meals. My name is Kate McDonald Goodin, and I'm the No Kid Hungry Kentucky Campaign Director at Feeding Kentucky. Every day in my job, I'm reminded of the sad reality that food insecurity is a huge problem in our state, and I'm combating this problem, especially for kids. It's a huge passion of mine. I'm so grateful that Senator Armstrong Jones and Representative Aull support school meals, and I'm excited to be with them here today. Sadly, over 150,000 kids in Kentucky are food insecure. That doesn't seem okay. The good news is that schools are on the front line of feeding kids every day. In fact, school meals are one of our best responses to childhood hunger. In Kentucky, schools have taken on the challenge of participating in the Community Eligibility Provision, and we have some of the highest participation rates in the country. Feeding Kentucky supports legislation that expands access to school meals for Kentucky kids, and we are excited about this opportunity to encourage participation in CEP. Encouraging participation in CEP makes sense for Kentucky schools and Kentucky kids. CEP reduces administrative paperwork and costs school districts, meaning that school administration can focus less on filling out paperwork and more on feeding kids. Studies by USDA show that participation in CEP report increases in school meal participation. It also can eliminate stigma of receiving a free meal if everyone is eating all together. Feeding Kentucky is excited about schools maximizing federal reimbursements and improving the financial viability of school nutrition programs. When school meal participation increases, school districts can use additional federal dollars to improve the nutritional quality and provide staff training. CEP makes it easier to implement innovative programs like breakfast in the classroom that make programs like school breakfast even more accessible to all kids at school. Community eligibility is a win for everyone, for kids, for staff, for schools, and for Kentucky. Simply put, legislation like this will be life-changing for kids in Kentucky. On behalf of Feeding Kentucky, I ask legislators to co-sign this bill, and thank you for your time and support.